One. Well, hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. I got a great question for you. This one is going to really get you to think, and we're going to kind of maybe put your thoughts on upside down on this. And it's an easy question, but it's really kind of deep. And the question is, do you want to be first or do you want to be second? And it's like, oh my gosh, what a great thought. Well, the competitive part of me always wants to be first. I was born and raised that way. And I'm actually going to chat with somebody that was kind of born the opposite, where they were thinking about, you first and me second. And so we're going to unpack what that looks like today with a bunch of other stuff. I'm honored to be hanging out with Al Kietzmann. How are you today, my friend?
I am doing well, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, Dave. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are the president at Copier Consulting. So fill us in on what Copier Consulting is.
Absolutely. Thank you. Copier Consulting is my brainchild of creating a company that helps the buyer navigate the process of negotiating copier printer lease contracts. And the role that we play is a partner to the buyer. We do not sell them or fix them. We believe that our message is unique and our market is a niche market, and that with the background that I have in selling these devices for over 15 years, I decided to leverage that information and knowledge and training to benefit the buyer. And I've been doing that on the buyer advocacy side for over 15 years.
Wow, that's awesome. And now you're looking to franchise that as an opportunity?
Yes. Copier Consulting franchise went live last year, and it actually almost didn't happen. There were four different franchise type companies that I had vetted, two in 2023 and two in 2024. And the company that I settled in on, phenomenal company, Franchise Marketing Systems, run by a wonderful gentleman out of Georgia by the name of Chris Connor, was patient, informative, and he had no problem just allowing me to take the time in my journey to understand, read, review everything about what they do. And I felt that was a way to go to duplicate my efforts and my time. So I'm quite excited about this. I'll be going to my first convention on Saturday down in Chicago.
Wow, that's cool. Congratulations. Well, and again, as we like to talk about that journey from corporate to owning your own business. So let's kind of rewind the tape for you as far back as you need to go. But you were in corporate America and then you ended up owning your own business. And as we know, there's people from all over the planet right now listening to this that want to be able to, shed that day job and want to be able to, get that business of their dreams. They had this idea. Did you, like, early in your career, Al, did you think you were eventually going to be an entrepreneur, or was that something that happened later for you?
I think it was at my core. I was raised in a family. My mom and dad and my dad's brother owned a small business, an auto
Okay,
parts store. And so I grew up in that environment, sweeping the floors, filling the soda machine, uh, putting parts on shelves. And eventually, when I got my driver's license, I delivered parts for them.
sure.
And when I was 18, my dad sold the company and retired.
Wow,
And I decided then that I wanted to do something in business. And I
sure.
wasn't a big fan of school, but I knew I needed to do something. So I tried travel and tourism for a little bit. I worked at the Hyatt Regency downtown Milwaukee for a short stint, but ultimately went back to get my associate degree in marketing and a little bit of some business classes moving into the bachelor degree world. But I really ultimately wanted to make money, and so I decided I have to get a job. And so I dabbled in a few part-time jobs, but ultimately started selling copying machines in
Okay,
1992 and did that for 15 years and got out in 2007. And I was recruited to work for a large financial services firm And I did that for 2 years, and then I worked in employment recruiting for 2 years, and then the recreational fishing and swim pond business
Wow.
for 2 years. And that job ended on the Tuesday after Labor Day in 2014. And I thought, what in the world am I going to do now? And so, because of that background and my passion to not let the negative ultimately drag me into a place I don't want to go,
Sure.
within an hour, I was at my desk, the one I'm sitting at right now, writing a business plan. And I knew I didn't want to get back into the industries I had worked in, but I wrote a business plan. I literally downloaded the SBA.gov business plan, read those instructions, knowing it's a moving target. Don't get hung up on the things that you don't know answers to, and just complete
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
And so I went to different connections, colleagues, friends that were in different positions in banking and CPA, legal uh, uh, type of positions, and said, "Look, this is what I think I want to do with this Copier Consulting gig.
Yeah.
If you think I'm crazy, just tell me. I'll go get a
Yeah.
sales job." I was in my mid 40s, and then
Sure.
they all said, "No, you've got something here. I would do that." And so,
Wow.
with that type of blessing and the foundation of the role that my parents played, that small business, and then the different jobs that I held, I combined all of that with the idea that I would just create this business. And that's really a short, quick story on that journey to get out of corporate into my own business.
Sure. Wow, that's cool. So I gotta go all the way back, Al. Was there like in your mind when your dad was selling his company, was that like on your mind? Were you thinking of buying it, interested in buying it at that time? Did you have any thoughts about that, or was that just not on your radar at that point?
Oh, it was. And my dad was a very, very wise man. He was humble. He was quiet. He was small in stature. He was born in 1926, raised in the Great Depression, fought in World War II, and was at Camp Cabanatuan, which was a place in the Pacific. He was under General MacArthur. And his background was always to work hard, to never give up, never quit. And that
Sure.
influenced me. And I wanted to do what he was doing, but he saw the future with some of the smaller retail companies like CarX, and ultimately, as we know today, all is it All Car, Advanced Auto Parts, and O'Reilly, and
Advanced,
all
yeah.
those. He
Yeah,
said,
sure.
"No, you don't want to do this. You should go back to school and get a good education and continue down that path." So yeah, I wanted to, but he said, "Nah, I don't think so." And so, but
Wow,
who
that's
knows, within
yeah.
his wisdom, what he had and other thoughts in mind.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and I think you bring up another good point for people listening that are contemplating starting their own business or they have a side hustle, they're not sure where this is going to go. I think you bring up a great point. You got to surround yourself with people that know what they're doing, a CPA, an attorney, people like that. And when you don't do that and you try to have this cavalier, I can do it myself mentality, generally it doesn't work nearly as well. And I've watched a lot of companies struggle because they have this I can do this mentality. Did you struggle with that, Al, early on, or did you
Sure. I
welcome
mean,
that?
absolutely. I mean, I think at some point I am like a lot of people in that I thought, well, with what I know and what I've learned, I can do things on my own. After failing a bunch of times and then ultimately having sales managers, general managers, and owners of companies that I was beholden to and I was responsible for, and I would be under their tutelage and their counsel, if you will. After you fall down enough times and are humbled by different aspects of life, you
Yeah,
might. I took some steps backwards at different points in my life and said, "Look, I need to try to figure out what I'm doing here, and I want to do it the right way." So I would look for that type of guidance. And there were different aspects of between my dad selling his company and going to school. I dabbled in real estate. Remember the Dave Delgado TV commercials or the Charles J. Givens invest in
hmm.
other people's money? That's a long time ago, but that
Yeah,
got
no,
me
I remember.
excited. And I
Yeah,
would go to these seminars, and my mother would take me there. And bless
Oh
her.
wow.
And
Yeah.
I'd go there and I'd like, I got to do this. And I'd get all these books and tapes and I'd read them and listen to the information. And I didn't know what I was going to do after that. It was like, it just didn't go anywhere. And so,
Sure.
but that was kind of the dabbling. Those were some of the things that I got into and made mistakes on in business. And, um, but good family support was a big deal
Sure. So
for
how
me.
did this happen, the you first, me second? So we're talking about that chunk today. You brought that up in our time before we got on. And, like I said in the intro, generally as a business owner, and I don't think this is wrong, where it's me first, you second, because whether you have to win, there's no second place if you're trying to win a contract, or like in your world, if you're trying to win a copier back in the day, that business, if you get second place, it really doesn't help you very much,
Yeah.
so there's kind of this balance, right? So kind of fill
Yeah.
me in and fill the world in on what, when you say you first, me second, what does that look like for you?
Well, it goes back to my mom and dad. They instilled in their servanthood type um, core values. My dad was an usher in church. My mom would volunteer. She still does to this day. My dad passed a long time ago, but my mother is still alive and active and volunteers within her church, and she's just actively giving.
Yeah.
And that has always been this reinforcing um, idea and concept in my mind. Now, as I was a younger man, maybe in college and going through my 20s and 30s, there were moments where I felt that that wasn't a big deal, and maybe there was more of a selfish mindset early in the sales career where I've got to go out and hit the, no matter what, I got to hit my sales quotas, etc. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I think life and people that come into our lives um, bring in these different ideas, and I'm a faith-filled man. I've been raised a Christian, and I trust in the Lord wholly. But a daily devotion that I listened to when I started my business in 2014, the one that I'm doing currently, every day I would watch and listen to this Time of Grace video devotional and a pastor, Mike Novotny, and it was amazing that every morning that was in some way an answer to a prior day or a week's prayer.
Sure.
I thought, this is unbelievable. So that had gone on for some time. That was really loud and clear to me. And one of those messages that Pastor Mike Novotny had that inspired me was things that I thought of my mom and dad doing, and put somebody else first and you second. Sure, we have to have leadership skills and we have to be willing to maybe drive that proverbial ship. But I felt that if I were to put others first in my life, that, maybe then things would be better for me if I came second instead of just being a ball hog, as I often say, or a bull in a china shop.
Sure.
And yeah, no, maybe I don't win them all because of that, but I
Yeah.
accept that. But anyhow, that's the where the me first,
Sure.
excuse me, you first, me second comes from.
Yeah. Well, and I love that ball hog thing because that's our era, right? Where like growing up with kids and you'd get together on a play, pick up basketball or pick up any sport, specifically basketball. It seemed like there were guys that were considered the ball hog where they would, you know, inbound it, run it up, shoot every time, and it was like, wow, there are other people on this team. So there's this balance that you try to find, whether you're building a team, whether you have others like you building a structure around you. But I think what really is helpful there from a business perspective is, do we have that you first, me second idea when it comes to building our team, but also like from our customers' experience? And I think that's what's really interesting is so often there's companies out there that are me first, me being the company, you second being the customer, whereas really the best customer experience is reversed. And I'm just curious, did that you first, me second permeate your customer experience then as well?
Uh, well, I hope it does. I hope I understand your question correctly. The copy industry that I'm in isn't one of those products or services that people get excited about. They don't wake up one day and go, "Man, I get to go out and negotiate a copier contract." That doesn't happen. It's usually quite the opposite. And
Right.
so to even initiate a conversation about that sometimes just isn't that pleasant. And so the idea of trying to get an understanding of what they have, what they need, maybe their challenges, and maybe the things that they like, maybe things they never want to see again. Those are important to me so that I can formulate some idea. And then after there's been enough of that Q&A and the client is maybe, or the prospective client is satisfied that I'm listening to what their needs and their pain points are, they might, uh, it might be my turn then, so to speak, and to share who I am, what I do, why I do it, and that how a collaboration or a partnership can work out into all parties' best interest. And it
Sure.
does become a unique message.
That's awesome. And we are all consumers, Al. So that's the funny thing is we know what it's like to get mistreated as a customer, whether it's at a retail establishment or whatever, right? A
Yep.
restaurant. We know what it's like to be on that me first, you second, the wrong end of that. So I think that hopefully business owners listening and entrepreneurs listening are actually taking note of some of the bad experiences that they have, because that's like the easiest thing to learn from. Somebody treated me this way, therefore I make sure and not treat my clients that way because I know how that felt.
Yep.
I
Exactly.
mean, isn't it bad when they do something wrong and they try to make you feel bad for it? It's like, whoa, wait a minute here, Um, so I love that. But I wrote down the word listen because I think that's a hidden gem there too, where, if we do all the talking, it's really hard to talk and listen at the same time. So, early in your sales career, early in your journey, did you struggle with listening? Was that something you were good at, or is that just one of those challenges that you had to fight through like the rest of us?
Well, I can think of a lot of different hills and valleys, ups and downs with that, where I did not listen well. I was not a good listener. Different people, whether in my personal life, business life, or what recreational life, and the response from people would shake me a little bit, and I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I wasn't listening, or I missed something," and then I
Yeah.
was embarrassed, and I thought,
Yep.
"Oh, well, if I was listening, I would have heard that, and I would have been able to do something more productive with that skill set."
Yeah.
When I say hills and valleys, I think, yeah, sure, I can read this book, I can attend this seminar, and I listen. I'm like, yeah, that's right, that's a good point. I should embrace that more often. And
Yeah.
then you go about life and you go about as a solopreneur, we're doing everything. That's the biggest challenge. And that's probably a precursor to the franchising. But
Yeah.
currently, in your program and your networking and what you speak about are constant reminders. To me, going to events and to programs and networking are, in a way, this continuing education aspect that I have seen in the different jobs that I had that were
Right.
required of me to go and take these classes. So there's always a way to learn more, and I just want to embrace as much as I possibly can while I'm on this earth and learn as
Right.
much as I can and share as much as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. That's awesome. And I just think listening is such a critical piece, again, regardless of where you're at in your journey. And a lot of times people hear, but they don't listen. Hearing is a biological function that just naturally happens. It's kind of like breathing and blinking, it just happens. But listening is really intentional. For people that are on this right now, hopefully it gives you just a reminder to get back to square one about, hey, put the customer first, I'm second, do your best to listen, the things that Al's been unpacking here. So that's awesome. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to kind of turn the corner and talk about franchises because I think that there's some great opportunities there. And you, as a former seller turned buyer, I want to kind of pick your brain there. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. Honored to be hanging out with Al Kietzmann, the president at Copier Consulting. And we are talking about you first, me second, as a potential um, opportunity for you to grow and build a business with that in mind. And again, we've been talking about from the customer's perspective. I want to turn the corner and start talking about franchises. So you, for a bunch of years, did a service, and then you realized that and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from our talks, you needed more coverage there. You could scale that with other people, and so you created this franchise opportunity. Was the franchise thing early in your career? I mean, when you were doing your copier consulting, when you were doing the copier side, were you in that thought of, hey, eventually we're gonna be able to franchise this, or when did that pop into your brain?
Yeah, no, it did not pop into my brain early on. When I think of the day that I started in writing that business plan, the day after Labor Day 2014, I just did what I could do for the first couple of years. And then
Yep.
on LinkedIn, a gentleman that's in an expense reduction company um, contacted me, and I worked with him and his clients, healthcare and county government type work, for 2 years from 2015 to 17. 2018, I became a client of UW Oshkosh's Small Business Development Center. And it was introduced to scaling at that time and was told that's a long journey. Be prepared for it. If you're willing to do that, things will happen. I'm like, okay, I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
2019 and so forth was just more of my doing what I do and working with my clients. Of course, COVID hit. I was working remote and virtually, ready to go, and everybody hit the brakes.
Yeah.
2021, I created a second website with the idea of SaaS. So I thought I would move into an item where the people would just go online and buy. And I realized that my clients mostly were interested at that time. I felt they were interested in having more hand holding and have some kind of a full service where they're talking to somebody a little bit more. They're not just going to go online and buy a shirt or
Yeah.
a small commodity, whatever. And so it just kept growing and the process kept growing. The questions in my request for proposal kept getting longer because and more inclusive because I kept finding different ways that the sellers were trying to redo the process and maybe not be as full disclosure or transparent as I wanted or hoped for. But then as 23 came around and people were suggesting franchising, I interviewed two companies that I thought, now this isn't going to work. I'm going to just rule it out. 24, two more came to me, and one I said no, and the other I said yes. And so the idea with the finding one of these that works is that there's an investment, and they do X amount of the legal docs to
Hmm.
encompass or encapsulate the big picture, and they they have a it's a healthy investment, but it's a doable investment. I think for most people would be my opinion.
Sure.
But the we talked about everything from what the franchise fee, royalties, ad fees, promotion fees, pro forma, business plan, operations manual, sales guidelines, the 23 items in the FDD, the Federal Disclosure Document, because this is regulated. Franchises are regulated by the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. We have to go through a process. So we did that. It took 6 months to go through that process, and I was very enthusiastic and happy and very glad of all the support that this franchise marketing systems offered to me.
Sure.
So yeah, so then it just became let's go live in January, and now we're just marketing it to maybe to this audience, somebody that's in corporate America that is considering business ownership. I'm one of probably 600 of their client base.
Sure.
Um, maybe it's somebody that's already in business calling on this same type of client base. They have a revenue stream that they're happy with, but they're looking for an additional revenue stream. It could be anybody like that. So,
Sure.
but we have a very duplicatable process thanks to the guidance and counsel I got from the franchising
Yeah.
people. So that's a quick snapshot of that.
Sure. And I think that, I mean, so for someone listening, if you haven't figured out or don't want to figure out the path to your business, the franchise thing is kind of already, I'm assuming, Al, that the franchise piece is, they've done the homework for you. They've done the business plan. They've done market research. They know a lot about, you kind of hit the ground running, I guess. Obviously, you pay for it, but that's one of those things that you pay X up front. But I think a lot of people forget that if I don't pay that, there's going to be a couple years of lean, while you're getting yourself established. There's a couple of lean years, whereas the franchise kind of already, hits, I don't want to say it like it's easier because it's not. It just the framework's there for you already. So instead of
Yeah.
finding an attorney and a CPA and business coach or whatever it is that you have to find along the way to build that business, these pieces are already in place for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of different franchises out there. In the restaurant business, um, I think HVAC is one. I think there is just a lot of different product service companies that franchise what they have been doing. They thought
Yep.
they had created a duplicatable process. They had to go through the legal, getting everything set up and established. Um, but the value propositions come into play. What's that ROI look like? What's the return on investment for what you have to spend? And they're not always the same fee. Our value proposition is laptop and a cell phone and a willingness to meet and greet and do networking. You're in B2B already, potentially, or maybe you want to be. Um,
Sure.
we have referral fee payouts, as do our four other affiliates that will pay 10% for a referral, but the franchisees will get 90% commission. So yes, there's a fee, but the loan to ROI is phenomenal, and I'm going to be there to support them, and
Well,
the
and I think that's
franchisors are there to support them.
I think that's the big thing is the support piece because again, most people that probably jump into this particular industry, Al, probably don't have that experience in the industry. They might have business experience, they might have franchise experience, but it'd be like me buying a McDonald's. I don't have any restaurant experience other than when I was 15 and worked at Shakey's Pizza. That's the extent
Yeah,
of my, which is none. So, just because I have business sense and I've done this my whole life, start and build businesses, that doesn't mean that I'd be successful at that piece. So that's what I think is helpful is having that person along the way to be able to help you and, be your biggest cheerleader and quite frankly, direct you and guide you when you're struggling. You didn't have that. So you just kind of muddled through the water yourself, then I'm assuming, correct?
I did, and there was when you said about investing or spending a lot of your hard-earned money to get things started. There was hundreds of thousands of dollars potential. You could maybe look at it as loss. I don't look at it as loss. I look at it as an education. The one thing that I forgot to mention in 2018, when I started working with the SBDC, they introduced me to an angel investor, and that angel investor had state funds that they were responsible for managing and then raising funds so they could reinvest into companies in Wisconsin. And they asked for a two-page executive summary. I gave it to them. They vetted my services and said, "You're onto something." So they were
Nice.
additional support saying you're going down the right path. And
Sure.
but yeah, I mean, you could spend 50 grand for a franchise, from what I understand, maybe 35,000 up to a million. And but then you have to look at the ROI, and that's what the FMS, the franchise marketing systems people do. They have
Sure.
different reps that can help coach and guide the prospective business owner to what makes the most sense.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's only you and me on this, so I just got to say this. You got to sell a lot of cheeseburgers to make money out of McDonald's, don't you? I mean, it just doesn't seem for the amount of money that you invest, that seems like that's got to be a really hard franchise to be successful.
I don't know. I do have a good friend that owned a Culver's franchise, and
Okay.
the gentleman that started that, I think a lot of people know Craig Culver. I'm told that the guy that I'm working with, when he had his first job, he was part of the team that started the Culver's franchise.
Oh,
And
nice.
so, how do they do that? I mean, I was in Burger King when I was 15 years old and learned how to flip and do all the stuff that you do in a fast food franchise.
Yep.
But yeah, you run all the numbers. You got to be willing to find the people that are you're going to know, like, and trust. When you buy something, you hope that you can have that know, like, and trust environment. And yeah, there are other people out there that would help speak to that. I'm sure the
Sure.
ROI is there, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, and they seem to be popping up all over. So there's
Yeah,
definitely not a shortage of them. So
yeah.
that's crazy. So, if you're listening and you're thinking to yourself, there's really two courses here. If you have an idea and you want to flush that out, you then kind of work your way like Al did the first time and find your accountant, CPA, find a trusted group of people that are going to tell you, like he said, hey, is this a good idea or not? Because we're too close to the idea. We think that, we live part-time in San Diego and we have a house there. And I thought, how, you know what? There's one thing I know that there isn't there is there's no snowmobile dealers in San Diego. Well, and so I'm
Yeah,
like,
makes
I'm
sense.
onto something here. This is awesome. We could sell skis and, snow blowers, and it's just like, man, you got to know your market. You got to know those things. And I think sometimes we get too close to that. Did you feel like you were too close at times where you needed that outside counsel to help you with your vision?
Yeah, somewhere in my life, somebody said that business owners get too close to the baby. That was a saying, and I
Yeah,
think that's true because we're so intimately involved in every aspect of it because it's ultimately our dollar. I mean, we're investing our time and energy, hoping to turn a profit. Ultimately, that's what we do.
right.
Yeah, I mean, and so, but I think that having other experts and other people that we can go to and counsel, I've learned to or constantly be reminding myself to humble myself, to be a coachable listener, so
Yep.
that I can find these other people that might have a desire to share information. Um, because I think that, I mean, just because I do this copier thing every day doesn't mean that I'm an expert in all these other items in this world, and I'm not.
Right.
I would never be able to tell you how to run a McDonald's franchise or a snowmobile dealership or any of that. I mean, that's not my
Sure.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but
Especially in San
yes,
Diego, not a lot of snowmobiles going around in San Diego. So you definitely would be the first in your industry if you wanted to try that.
well, that might be
But
where the watercraft came from, or those wave runners. You know, they
right,
just took the skis off and put them on water.
exactly. And we're like, hey, we can do this all year. So no, and it's interesting that you bring that up. You talked about being you were a former seller that turned buyer. So as we turn another corner here and look towards the finish line today, I want to bring that up because I think it's important for us again to think about what we're doing, but think about it from the buyer's perspective. So you were a former seller turning buyer. Did you like so first of all, introspectively, did you see like some kinks in your selling or like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that? Did you notice anything there? First question. And the second is, are there some tips that you have for us who still are on the seller side?
The light bulb moment was the day I quit selling copiers after 15 years and got into the regulated life insurance and investment world. And I had to get an FBI background check, police records, fingerprints. I had to submit all that. And then my sales practices were subjected to suitability laws, sales
Hmm,
laws. FINRA, SEC, and the Office of Insurance Commissioner were these entities that I was beholden to as well. I had to make sure that I was selling the right things, saying the right things. The copy industry doesn't have it. They're not regulated.
sure.
My passion took me to the state capitol in 2017. I had asked my legislator to listen to the plights that I had for the benefit of the buyer, that there are problems and challenges here. And they
Yeah,
agreed, DAT, CAP, DFI, and Senate Bill, a senator came in and they legal drafted Assembly Bill 684 and Senate Bill 580 tied to it. I testified in front of the Assembly Committee in 2017 in favor of a bill that would benefit the buyer. Well, it died in the Senate. There is nothing to protect the buyer. So um, the light bulb moments were when I left the copy industry and went into the um, regulated financial services world. I called on those clients that I sold copiers to buy life insurance, and they said, "No, but we're going to buy a copier. Will you help us buy a copier?" I did that 7 times, saved them all money. And that's like, wow, then maybe I don't have to give up the 15 years of sales. What am I going to do with this? And so I mulled that over, and that just stewed with me for a long time.
sure.
So
Yeah,
that you first, me second mentality has always been kind of, well, I learned a lot there. I should transition that knowledge to benefit those buyers. And because there was a mismatch in the core values from the family run business to the copper industry, I was always struggling with it. But my dad always said, don't quit, don't ever give up. So I stayed with the job.
yeah,
But I had enough. There was a lot of shenanigans, as I like to call it, intellectual dishonesty, and I couldn't anymore. And so
sure.
then all these things started to come together, and that was a huge light bulb moment where I saw opportunity. And I think sometimes that has to happen for people. They just have to go through enough pain to get to that place.
And that's interesting because our generally the sales world is unregulated. So, if this piece doesn't come in purple, but I want to say it comes in purple, then I can say it comes in purple. And, you know, I may get in trouble with the buyer. I may get fired from the job, but it's not like I'm going to prison for it, you know. So I mean, it's kind of a self-regulated world, and I think that that's it can be good and that can be bad. Does the franchise part of this regulate anything there? I mean, do you have like tenets of faith, or do you have like vision, mission statements? How does that tie into owning a franchise?
I think the answer to that is in the FDD. I would have to go to franchise marketing systems and get specific answer to that. But the FDD is a 23 item document that lays out the guts and the books and the papers of the business that's franchising, and then we have to answer that. They go through the process and they interview me, and I have to provide them supporting documentation to enter into, and that's what they do. So
Okay,
that becomes that legal document. Um, but we have a vision and mission statement, and we have put this together as the marketing plan because
sure.
ultimately, um, you talk about the sales aren't regulated, and if you say it's purple and somebody says it's not purple, ideally, most of what we do in this world when we buy something, we did not work or get trained in the industry we're buying in.
Right.
So when I bought my truck, I took a buddy that used to sell trucks with me to the dealer and made some phone calls and so forth and saved me quite a few $1,000s. That was
Wow.
because of the philosophy that I had here. I mean, if the copier industry doesn't have a person that's helping the buyer buy, the seller always knows more than the buyer, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yep.
how do we create a very unique message? Why not transfer what I know in this industry into doing something that benefits the buyer? And so we've constantly honed that craft. And ultimately it's benefited a lot of buyers.
That's awesome. And I think again, for anyone listening that is interested in this as an income stream, uh, an additional income stream on top of what you're already doing. Obviously, that's why Al's here, and that's what his franchise does and what they offer. Which again, franchising sounds really to me as a restrictive thing because I'm a outside the box thinker and I would be like, hey Al, what about this? What about that? So that's my head trash right there. Conversely, there's probably a bunch of people that are like, I need those boundaries, I need those, lanes to stay in because where, so many people are like, I have a great idea, Al. What do I do day one? They think, hey, I'll build a website and then put a shingle out and there's going to be a line of people waiting for me to for that door to open. It's like that just doesn't happen anymore,
No.
and so that's where the franchising again, like we talked about, I call it hit the ground running. I'm assuming, are you on board with that piece? Because it feels like you get a big momentum push before you actually open your doors to something like this.
Yeah, that's a fair analogy. I mean, you're not starting out trying to create something from nothing. Something's been done beforehand. It's certainly
Yeah,
not a get rich quick scheme or a get rich quick opportunity. You do have to work. I mean, that's
yeah,
just the bottom life in business. It's just not going to be something that you can sit by and say, "Hey, you said this and I'm going to make this." You have to perform. You have to be willing to get off your duff and get out there and knock on doors and meet people and network and build relationships. That's ultimately what business is. But it's an advantage to the buyer, and in the same line of thinking of the you first, me second, and what can I do to bring more value to the franchisee, the prospective buyer of my franchise. I have gone out and talked to other expense reduction companies and created 4 additional affiliates with 10 other line items that
sure.
will be added value that will help these entities, the franchisees that are going to somebody that may not want to do copier sales, but they find out that we have affiliate relationships in the shipping and freight,
Yeah,
telecom expense reduction, mobile wireless, managed IT, internet, backup security cameras, etc.
yeah,
Yeah, we have other people we can refer to, and they're going to get 90% of whatever that savings is, and all they're doing is referring to
sure.
that affiliate. So that's just I want to be known as somebody that's outside the box thinking as well, but I'm not going to stop tweaking and adjusting things that work. If they don't work, we're pitching them. If they are going to work, we're going to use them and duplicate them. If we find that there's a better storyline, hey, I'm excited about learning from the franchisees that come on board from their experience. They might bring
Right.
ideas and values that we integrate because I never thought of it. Doesn't mean I am the
Right.
cure all to end all in all this. So I
Yeah.
look forward to learning from others as well.
Well, as we land the plane today, I think what you said for that truck guy, so your buddy saves you money. And if your buddy decides, hey, this is a franchise that I could do, who wouldn't take this guy in if, let's say, again, numbers are fictitious. Let's say the guy charges me $1,000 to come along and buy a truck, but I save $5,000 because of his involvement. I mean, that's a ROI I would do all day long. So, that's what I think is awesome that you're doing is you're helping people save money that they have to spend anyway. And so, why not get that confidence that you have somebody on your side? Because, like you said, otherwise I have to take the word of the person that's selling, and I get it. And he or she has to build trust with me. But in the split moment, my copier goes down. I need a new one. I don't have any friends or family relatives in that world, so then I just go to the A's in the phone book or whatever, and there I'm trying to muddle my way through what has to happen on top of all the other things that I can't afford not to do. So it's like a major interruption in my day. So you come in and you basically take over that hassle for me, then I'm assuming, correct?
That's right. Copy the clients and all the emails. We look at the totality of what they currently have. We look at their lease purchase agreement, depending on what they have, maintenance agreement, invoices. I'd like to see a picture of the device so that I can do a lot of the homework on my own time and not bother
Sure.
them. We want to know what their contractual obligation is. We want to write a request for proposal. Most buyers don't do that. Our questions are up to 77 right now. And we're
Wow.
always finding other areas that we want to learn about. Clients will say, hey, we want this, we want that. So we add it so we can get that for the greater good for all of our clients. And then we'll
Sure.
evaluate the vendors fairly and reasonably. And um, that's really it. And you're having somebody that's sitting on your side of the table that you're not having to, pay worker comp, unemployment, or benefits to. We just want to be
Yeah.
on their team, but not their payroll.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. So yeah, give that guy's name out, your buddy that's doing the truck thing, because he should do that for a business. That'd be
He
awesome.
should. He hasn't. He doesn't want to. He has some other challenges, I believe. But
Sure.
there is another company. If people search it out on YouTube, it's a really cool company. Father son duo. Dad sold for 43 years. The son's about changing the status quo, and they do almost what you said there, and that's pretty. It's pretty cool. So
Wow.
I'm going to contact them when I buy my next truck. No question about it. They got a lot of
Exactly.
cool videos out there.
That's cool. Hey, last question before I let you go, Al. What would your tip of the day be for somebody listening? Maybe it's something we covered already. Maybe it's something that's on your heart that you haven't shared, but what would your tip of the day be today?
I would say that if you have goals and dreams and aspirations, that you should go after them. Life is very short. One of the big motivating factors for me to start my business in my mid 40s was the fact that numerous people I knew and a close buddy I grew up with had passed away,
Hmm.
cancer and some other issues. And it was a life changing moment. So, make sure that you've got a strong faith, surround yourself with good people, and don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions and vet whatever you're going through and find somebody along the way that can help you.
Awesome. Yep. There are plenty of people like Al, like myself, that, we on our journey find people and we help them along the way. Sometimes we pull over and help. Sometimes we just, come alongside while they're going through stuff. A lot of times this transcends business, but from a business perspective, maybe you're thinking about a franchise, talk to Al. Maybe you're thinking about franchising your product, he'd give you some ideas and as well. So if people want to connect with you, Al, what's the best way for us to connect with you?
Through my email, websites, and cell phone. So
Okay.
my email is al at copierconsultingllc.com.
Okay.
My mobile number is 920-904-5712. And I'm happy
Awesome.
to talk with anybody about their dreams and aspirations of starting their own business.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you for uncovering some of that for us listening. It's always great to hear the journey. And as you heard today, somebody got let go and then they're like, crap, I think I should do something. So that was a pretty quick way to go. We don't think there's a right or wrong way. We don't, suggest one over the other because we've had people that have done corporate America for years and then they end up jumping into something alongside. Some people never do. There's no right or wrong way to start your own business. This is just one of the many ways, and Al did a great job of articulating how franchising can help. So again, if you have questions, reach out to Al. And I know Al enough that if your question doesn't have anything to do with this, he's still going to help because it's you first
No,
and him second. So
correct.
thank you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And I'm excited to watch where your franchise goes. I'm hoping it's going to be McDonald's in the next 5 years, that it's on every corner. And then we're both in good shape.
That's right. Well, I appreciate those words. Thanks so much for your time today, Dave.